They say silence is powerful, and you've probably felt that at some point in your life. That moment you stopped explaining yourself, stopped chasing, stopped filling every awkward pause with noise. It changes the room, doesn't it? Silence can command respect. It can create mystery. It leaves people wondering what's going on in his head. And let's be honest, most people. They can't handle that. They panic when someone doesn't immediately react, doesn't text back, doesn't spill every thought. That's why silence has been a weapon of king strategists and Stoic thinkers for thousands of years. But let me challenge that idea for a second. Is silence always enough? See, there's this belief floating around, especially in today's world, that if you just go quiet, you win. That not responding, not engaging somehow gives you all the power. But here's the truth. Nobody talks about silence. Without direction, without intention, can backfire. Silence alone might create a temporary vacuum. But without strategy, that vacuum fills with assumptions. And assumptions? They can make people forget you just as fast as they feared you. Think about it. You've probably stayed silent in a situation before thinking you were playing it cool. But what happened? Maybe they stopped noticing. Maybe they filled in the blanks with their own story and you lost control of the narrative. That's why silence isn't the end game. It's only the opening move. Because true influence, the kind that lingers long after you've left the room, doesn't come from hiding. It comes from presence. Not noisy, desperate attention-seeking presence, but calculated, powerful, undeniable presence. The kind where you don't have to say a word yet people feel you. They respect you. They wonder about you even when you're gone. And here's the thing most men miss. That presence. It's a skill. It's an art. And when you combine it with ancient Stoic principles and modern psychological influence, it turns you into the type of man people can't forget. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king himself, once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's what we're diving into today. Not just the myth of silence, but the reality of how you use your presence, your energy, your controlled visibility to create influence that lasts. Because silence, without presence, is emptiness. But silence backed by intention, by self-mastery, by that unshakable inner calm, Stoics lived by. That's when silence transforms from avoidance into power. So if you've ever felt like going quiet didn't give you the edge you wanted, or you've wondered how to make your presence impossible to ignore without saying a word, you're in the right place. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to turn silence into strategy, and strategy into the kind of influence most people only dream about. Let's get into it. Let's talk about silence, real silence. The kind that can shift the energy of a room without you saying a single word. You've heard it before. Silence is powerful, and it's true. But most men, they misunderstand that power completely. They think silence means retreat, that if they just stop talking, stop texting, stop explaining themselves, they win. That's only half the story. See, the ancient Stoics men like Epictetus mastered the art of silence, and they didn't use it to run away. They used it to control the battlefield. Epictetus once said, "Silence is safer than speech." And if you've ever spoken out of anger or reacted impulsively, you know exactly what he meant. Silence protects you. It guards your energy. It keeps you from saying things you'll regret, words that can't be taken back. But here's where it gets interesting. Silence isn't just about protection. It's a psychological tool, maybe one of the sharpest you'll ever carry. Think about the world we live in. Constant noise, endless opinions, everyone racing to be heard, social media news arguments, texts. It never stops. And in that chaos, silence is rare. Silence makes people uncomfortable. Silence makes people curious. When you stay quiet intentionally, you create a vacuum, an empty space that other people rush to fill with their thoughts, their insecurities, their assumptions about you. It's human nature. We hate unknowns. So when you stop speaking, stop reacting, they project. They wonder, what's he thinking? Is he angry? Does he know something I don't? That's the silent grip of power. It's the same reason top negotiators stay quiet after making an offer. The same reason confident men don't overshare. And the same reason in an argument silence can completely destabilize the other person. Let me paint the picture. Imagine someone's trying to provoke you, throwing insults, accusations, desperate to pull a reaction out of you. Most people would jump in, defend themselves, explain, raise their voice, they hand over their power without even realizing it. But you stay still. You hold their gaze. You let their words hang awkwardly in the air. Watch what happens. They get flustered. They second-guess themselves. Their words lose impact because your silence exposed their need for validation. That's the power of composed silence. It flips the dynamic entirely. But listen carefully, because here's where most men get this wrong. Silence is powerful, yes, but only when it's rare. Only when it's intentional. Silence that becomes predictable. That becomes your default. It loses its edge. Overused silence doesn't project strength. It starts to look passive, disconnected, even weak. And silence alone, it leaves too much room for false assumptions. People don't always assume strength in your silence. Sometimes they assume indifference, or weakness, or worse. They stop thinking about you altogether. That's the hidden trap of relying on silence without a bigger strategy behind it. Think about it. Have you ever stayed quiet in a relationship thinking you were being powerful only to watch them stop caring, stop reaching out, start telling themselves a story that worked against you? It happens all the time. That's why silence, while valuable, isn't the full playbook. It's step one. The greatest Stoics didn't stay silent for the sake of being mysterious. They stayed silent when it served their purpose. And when silence wasn't enough, they moved. With clarity, with presence, with actions so deliberate, no words were needed. That's the level we're stepping into today. So yes, master your silence. Use it to protect your energy. Use it to create mystery. Let people wonder about you. Let them lean into the unknown. But don't mistake silence for the final strategy, because true influence, the kind that leaves people thinking about you long after you've left the room, that takes more than silence. It takes presence. It takes control. And it takes knowing exactly when to stay quiet and when to move with undeniable purpose. And in the next part of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Stay with me. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room, maybe a meeting, a gathering, even just a small get-together, and before anyone speaks, you already feel the power dynamic shift? You notice the energy tighten. People straighten up. Eyes quietly drift toward one person, and that person hasn't said a single word. That's presence. It's influence without noise, power without desperation. And when you understand how to use presence intentionally, you make silence 10 times more effective. See silence by itself. It creates mystery. It makes people wonder. But presence makes people remember. Presence makes them respect you often before you've even opened your mouth. And here's the thing most men never figure out. You don't have to be loud to be noticed. You don't have to dominate conversations to dominate a room. You just have to master your presence. Let's go deeper. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor himself, put it simply, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. That's presence in action. It's not what you talk about. It's how you carry yourself. It's the quiet, unshakable confidence that follows men who've done the work internally, and it shows externally. Because make no mistake, presence isn't about showing off. It's not some fake bravado or arrogant posture. True presence. It's subtle, but heavy. It's the energy of a man who doesn't need to prove himself because his self-respect speaks for him. And here's the fascinating part. It's backed by psychology. Human beings are wired to read unspoken cues. We're constantly scanning for signs of confidence, control, and status long before words enter the equation. Your posture, your breathing, your eye contact, the calmness in how you move. These small details speak directly to people's subconscious minds. If your body language is steady, people assume you're composed. If your gaze is grounded, people sense you're in control. If your presence feels intentional, people instinctively respect you. And when you pair that with strategic silence, the effect is amplified. Suddenly, your absence makes them lean in. Your words, when you finally speak, carry more weight. Your energy lingers long after you've left. Think about the most magnetic individuals you've met. They weren't the loudest. They weren't chasing validation, but they walked with calm authority. They held space with their presence. Their energy spoke for them, and that impact, it stayed with you. You couldn't quite explain it, but you felt it. And here's the truth most never tell you. Presence is a skill, not a gift. It's something you cultivate. It comes from self-mastery, from aligning your inner discipline with your external energy. It's the embodiment of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed real power doesn't come from arguing, bragging, or chasing attention. It comes from how you show up. Quiet strength, disciplined action. The ability to move through life with purpose and let your presence, not your words, define you. That's the power we're tapping into here. And you don't need to be famous. You don't need status or some perfect appearance. Presence starts with how you carry yourself every single day. Stand tall but relaxed. Make eye contact, calm, steady without forcing it. Move with purpose, every action measured, never frantic. Let your energy be grounded even when situations get chaotic. Because when your internal world is disciplined, your external presence reflects it. And trust me, people notice. Suddenly, your silence isn't empty. It's loaded with meaning. Your actions aren't reactive. They're intentional. Your presence becomes a statement even in the spaces between words. So let me ask you, when you enter a room, are you just there, or are you truly present? Are people leaning in curious, maybe even a little unsure of how to read you? Or do you fade into the background without realizing it? If you're ready to embody the kind of presence that speaks louder than words, the kind that amplifies your silence and commands respect without you chasing it, you're already ahead of most. In the next part, I'll show you how presence, silence, and action combine to create undeniable influence, because silence starts the mystery. Presence cements your impact, but action, that's what seals the deal. Stay tuned. We're just getting started. Let's make something clear. Silence creates mystery. Presence commands attention. But action is what amplifies everything. Without action, silence can be misunderstood. Without action, presence fades. It's your movement, your deliberate choices that transform quiet influence into undeniable respect. And that's not some motivational line. That's ancient wisdom. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They didn't believe in empty noise. They believed in deliberate, calculated movement. Seneca, one of the most respected Stoic minds, said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." You can apply that to action, too. It's not about craving constant attention, craving to prove yourself, craving recognition. It's about acting with purpose, not reacting with insecurity. See, most people, especially in high-pressure moments, they scramble. They over-explain. They defend themselves. They try to control perception with noise. But the men who earn respect, they stay composed. And when they move, it's intentional. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a disagreement, maybe at work, in a relationship, or even during negotiations. Everyone else is flustered. Voices are raised. Egos are inflamed. You stay grounded. You listen. You observe. You let their noise reveal their insecurity. And when the moment's right, you speak calmly. You act with precision. You redirect the situation not to win an argument, but to solve the problem. That one moment, it speaks louder than hours of explaining ever could. That's what I mean by purposeful action. It's not about doing more. It's about doing the right thing at the right time with the right energy. Now here's where psychology makes this even more powerful. People are wired to respond to movement, not noise. We instinctively respect those who move with quiet confidence. We subconsciously read their behavior as strength, stability, leadership. And the opposite is true too. Erratic movements, frantic energy, desperate actions. Those reveal weakness faster than any words ever could. That's why the most powerful actions are subtle, controlled, often unannounced. Think about the leaders you admire, the men who walk into a room and shift the atmosphere not with their volume, but with their presence, and their measured action. Maybe it's the way they calmly diffuse tension. Maybe it's the steady way they handle conflict. Or maybe it's the simple consistency in how they show up, reliable, focused, composed. Those actions, those micro movements shape how others see them. And here's the real kicker. The strongest men don't crave recognition for their actions. They don't need applause. Because their actions aren't about feeding ego, they're about aligning with values. The Stoics taught this relentlessly. You don't act to be noticed. You act to live in alignment with your principles, your discipline, your standards as a man. That's why your action, when grounded in self-mastery, carries weight. It tells the world, I don't react to chaos. I don't chase validation. I move when I choose, and when I do, it matters. But action isn't just about how others see you. It's about how you see yourself. Every time you follow through, every time you choose discipline over distraction, every time you act with purpose instead of panic, you're building self-trust. You're reinforcing your identity. You're proving to yourself, I am the man I claim to be. That's where real confidence comes from. Not from external applause, not from temporary validation, but from knowing your actions reflect your inner strength. Let me ask you, when was the last time your actions spoke louder than your words? When was the last time your composure, your discipline, your intentional movement shifted a situation without you raising your voice? If you can't answer that, good news today is when you change it. Because true influence, it's not found in noise. It's not found in over-explaining. It's found in composed, consistent, purposeful action. Master that, and your silence. It becomes a weapon. Your presence unshakable. Your actions undeniable. In the next part of this video, we'll dive deeper into how dark psychology and presence management take your influence to the next level. But remember, it all starts with action. Purposeful, controlled, aligned. That's how real respect is earned quietly, steadily, intentionally. Stay with me. Here's a hard truth most men ignore. Perception is reality. It shouldn't be, but it is. How people see you, how they interpret your energy, how they feel when you're in the room. All of that shapes how they treat you, how they talk to you, and even how they remember you. The Stoics knew this long before modern psychology gave it a label. Epictetus said it perfectly. First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. Translation: decide who you are, then align your actions, your presence, your silence, everything with that identity. Because whether you like it or not, people are always reading you. Your body language, your posture, your facial expressions, your energy when you walk into a room. It's happening on a subconscious level. You might not say a word, but your presence. It speaks volumes. Let me ask you, have you ever seen a man enter a room and instantly command respect even before he opened his mouth? Maybe he stood tall, moved with calm confidence, made steady eye contact, and suddenly the atmosphere shifted. That's perception management in action. And it's not luck, it's calculated. Now let's get deeper. Dark psychology teaches us people constantly scan for subconscious cues. They look for signs of confidence, status, control, or weakness. The smallest details. They reveal everything. Slouch your shoulders, you signal insecurity. Fidget or avoid eye contact, you project uncertainty. Speak frantically or over-explain, you sound ungrounded. But stand tall, relaxed, you radiate control. Move with intention, you project confidence. Let silence linger, you spark curiosity. It's not manipulation, it's awareness. Understanding how people perceive you gives you an advantage most men never touch. And here's where it gets interesting. Deliberate action without over-explaining creates intrigue. You've felt this before. Think about someone who moves quietly, speaks rarely, but when they do act, it's measured sharp, intentional. What happens? You lean in, you wonder. What's he thinking? What's his angle? Why did he do that now? That curiosity, that uncertainty. It embeds you in their mind long after the moment has passed. But here's where most guys blow it. They confuse perception management with faking it. Wrong move. This isn't about building a fake persona. It's about aligning your external presence with your inner truth. The Stoics lived by this. They didn't wear masks. They didn't pretend. They mastered themselves first, then let their presence reflect that mastery. When your inner strength matches your outer energy, that's authenticity, and people can feel it. Authenticity is rare, and rare things. They get noticed. Let me paint the picture. You walk into a room composed, grounded, steady. Your shoulders are back. Your breathing is calm. You make brief, confident eye contact. You say little, but everything about your presence communicates. I know who I am. I don't need to prove it. Suddenly, people listen differently. They think twice before interrupting. They weigh your words heavier. They wonder about your silence. That's how you manage perception truthfully, powerfully. You're not performing. You're projecting alignment. Here's the bottom line. You can't control every thought someone has about you, but you can control the signals you send. You can control how you carry yourself. You can control your energy, your movements, your reactions. And when you do, you influence their perception naturally. So let me ask you, how are people perceiving you right now? Are you showing up with grounded presence, or are you leaking insecurity with your body language? Are you creating curiosity, or are you predictable, easy to figure out, easy to forget? If you're ready to manage perception like a Stoic with authenticity, intention, and quiet influence, you're already separating yourself from the noise. In the next part, we'll dive into a strategy few men understand. Controlled visibility, where your presence becomes so rare, so intentional, that people can't help but notice when you enter and feel your absence when you leave. But it all starts here with how they see you. Decide who you are. Then make sure your presence, your silence, and your actions reflect it every single time. Let's keep going. Let me give you one of the most overlooked truths about influence. It's not about being seen all the time. It's about being seen when it matters most. And that's where we step into what I call controlled visibility, one of the most powerful tools a man can use if he wants to create lasting impact without chasing attention. See, average men think influence is about constant presence. They flood conversations. They overtext. They show up everywhere hoping to be noticed. But in reality, the more available you are, the more people take you for granted. Scarcity creates value. It's wired deep into human psychology. The Stoics understood this long before modern science put labels on it. Epictetus said it best, know first who you are, then adorn yourself accordingly. Translation: get clear on your identity, your values, your worth. And once you do, you present yourself to the world with intention, not desperation. That's controlled visibility in action. It's not about disappearing to play games. It's about choosing your moments, showing up with purpose, then stepping back, letting your absence speak just as loudly as your presence. Think about the most respected men you know. Are they constantly available, always in the mix? Or are they selective present when they choose, and when they do show up, people notice exactly? Scarcity fuels curiosity. Scarcity builds respect. Controlled visibility turns your presence into a rare, valuable commodity. Here's the psychology behind it. Humans naturally chase what feels exclusive. It's the reason luxury brands never oversaturate the market. It's why the man who speaks less often commands attention when he does. It's why those who rarely show up at events make an impact simply by being there. Your presence. It should be the same. But here's where most men get this wrong. Controlled visibility isn't about ghosting people randomly or isolating yourself to seem mysterious. That's avoidance, not strategy. True controlled visibility means you choose when to engage. You show up intentionally with purpose, confidence, and clarity. You leave behind energy actions or impressions that linger after you're gone. It's absence with a purpose, not absence for the sake of disappearing. Let me give you a real example. Imagine you've been quiet in a certain social circle. Maybe you've distanced yourself from unnecessary drama, or you've simply been focused on your own growth. Now, the next time you re-enter that space, you don't show up casually. You pick the moment, a key conversation, a meaningful event, a pivotal interaction, and when you do appear, your energy is grounded. Your body language is composed. Your words are few but intentional. Your presence fills the room without forcing it. And when you leave a gap they feel. People start asking themselves, why did he show up now? What's he thinking? What's changed about him? That's controlled visibility working for you. You're not just seen, you're felt. And when you step away again, the space you leave becomes a statement, one that keeps you present in their minds, even in your absence. It's the ultimate balance between mystery and impact. The Stoics believed everything you do should align with your values and purpose. Controlled visibility is your chance to live that wisdom, to stop diluting your presence and start using it strategically. But here's the most important part. Controlled visibility isn't just about how others see you. It's about mastering yourself. It requires discipline, patience, and belief in your own value. The man who can step back without fear, who can stay silent when needed, who can wait for the right moment, instead of forcing visibility, that man has true control. Let me ask you honestly, are you flooding people with your presence? Or are you choosing your moments, letting your absence create anticipation? If you're ready to own your presence, to show up when it counts, to leave an impact that lingers longer than your words ever could, you're ready for controlled visibility. And in the next part, I'll show you exactly how to apply this with real steps, so your silence, your presence, and your actions work together to make you unforgettable. Let's keep going. There's a universal law of human behavior that most people never learn, and the men who do, they quietly separate themselves from the pack. It's called the scarcity effect, and when you understand how to use it, your presence becomes powerful, your attention becomes valuable, and your absence. It speaks louder than your words ever could. Let's break it down. Human nature is wired to crave what feels rare. We want what we can't easily have. We chase what feels exclusive. And we value what shows restraint. It's true in business, it's true in relationships, and it's absolutely true when it comes to influence. Here's the hard truth. When you're always available, always explaining yourself, always showing up unfiltered and uncalculated, people stop noticing. Worse, they stop respecting. Your presence becomes background noise, but when you pull back strategically, when you become selective with your time, your words, your visibility, your value skyrockets often without you saying a thing. The ancient Stoics lived by this instinctively. Think about men like Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius. They weren't the loudest voices in the room. They didn't dominate with constant noise. But when they did speak, when they did act, people leaned in. They listened. They remembered. Why? Because scarcity breeds value. And modern psychology, it confirms this. It's called the scarcity principle. The idea that when access to something feels limited, its perceived worth increases. It's the same reason luxury products stay exclusive, the same reason limited edition items sell out faster, and the same reason a man who's not always available becomes magnetic. Let me give you an example you've probably lived through. Think about someone you constantly texted called checked in on, always available, always explaining, always showing up, and slowly they lost interest. They started pulling away. You became predictable, easy to figure out, easy to overlook. But flip the script. Imagine pulling back, not disappearing out of insecurity, but stepping back with purpose. Suddenly your time, your presence, your attention feels different, scarcer, more deliberate. And human nature kicks in, they lean in. They wonder, where is he? What's he thinking? Why isn't he chasing like everyone else? That curiosity, that subtle frustration, that's influence working for you without noise, without games, without desperation. But here's the key, and this is where most men mess this up. Scarcity isn't about playing hard to get in a childish, reactive way. It's not about disappearing randomly or ghosting people to feel powerful. It's about controlled scarcity, being present when it matters, being absent when it builds value, and being intentional with how you show up. Your time becomes precious. Your energy becomes selective. Your words become impactful. Your presence becomes a statement. It's not avoidance, it's strategy. And here's the beautiful part: when you master scarcity, you amplify everything else. Your silence, it carries weight. Your presence, it commands attention. Your absence, it creates respect. The Stoics practiced this not just in speech, but in life. They weren't slaves to attention. They didn't overshare, overappear, or over-explain. They moved with discipline. They spoke with purpose. And their restraint made them not only respected, but in many cases, feared. That's the energy we're tapping into here. Because when you stop flooding people with your availability, when you stop diluting your impact, people notice whether they admit it or not. And it's not about arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about knowing your worth and protecting it. Your presence, your time, your attention, their limited resources. And like anything scarce, when used correctly, they become priceless. So let me ask you, are you overextending yourself? Are you constantly available? Constantly explaining, constantly showing up only to feel overlooked? Or are you mastering scarcity? Are you choosing your moments, your words, your presence with the same discipline the Stoics lived by? Because when you do, you don't just exist. You become magnetic. You don't just speak. You create intrigue. You don't just show up. You leave them wanting more. In the next part of this video, we'll dive into how scarcity amplifies controlled visibility, turning you into the kind of man people can't ignore and can't forget. Let's keep going. Understanding controlled visibility is one thing, but living it, that's where real influence is built. See, knowing you shouldn't always be available, knowing your presence should be rare and intentional, that's step one. But if you don't apply it the right way, you risk coming off avoidant, inconsistent, or just playing games, and that destroys credibility faster than it builds respect. So let me break this down for you. 6 steps to applying controlled visibility in your daily life. The Stoic powerful way, so your presence commands attention, your absence creates value, and your reputation speaks louder than your words. Step 1. Self-awareness. Before you can control how others see you, you need to know who you are. Ask yourself, what energy do I want to project? What impression do I want to leave behind? Do my actions, words, and presence reflect the man I claim to be? The Stoics taught this relentlessly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts," meaning your mindset shapes your presence. If your inner world is chaotic, it shows. But if your thoughts are disciplined, calm, purpose-driven, your presence speaks that truth even before you say a word. Step 2. Choose your moments. Controlled visibility isn't about disappearing randomly, it's about timing. You don't need to be present everywhere, you need to show up where your presence creates impact. In relationships, engage during critical conversations, not endless small talk. In your career, contribute when your insight can move the needle, not just to fill the silence. In life, choose events, discussions, or opportunities where your energy adds undeniable value. Quality beats quantity every time. Step 3. Deliberate action. When you decide to be visible, make it count. Your posture, your tone, your body language, your energy. They all need to align with the message you're projecting. Even small actions, a calm, confident entrance into a room. Pausing before you speak. Choosing words with intention, these leave lasting impressions. The Stoics didn't believe in empty words. Seneca said, "Words that are devoid of truth are meaningless. Let your actions, not your noise, define your influence." Step 4. Strategic absence. Don't confuse this with ghosting or avoidance. Strategic absence is calculated. It's stepping back when your presence is being taken for granted. It's creating space for people to reflect, notice your absence, and revalue your energy. Absence builds anticipation, but only when used with purpose. Overexposure weakens your influence, but well-timed distance, it amplifies your worth. Step 5. Be unpredictable. Here's where dark psychology sharpens your advantage. Humans crave certainty, but they respect unpredictability. If people can predict your every move, your presence loses its edge. Controlled visibility keeps them guessing. Sometimes your silence speaks. Sometimes your deliberate action shifts the dynamic. Sometimes your absence creates reflection. Never let your rhythm become routine. Keep them leaning in, wondering, intrigued. Step 6. Consistency over time. The most powerful men aren't defined by one moment, but by their ability to show up intentionally again and again. Controlled visibility isn't a one-off tactic. It's a lifestyle. Over time, your selective presence, your deliberate absence, your calm confidence, they build your reputation. And reputation, that's the currency of respect. Let me give you a real-world example. Picture a man who rarely speaks, but when he does, his words shift the conversation. He doesn't show up to every event, but when he enters the room, people notice. He isn't chasing attention, but somehow his absence is always felt. That man didn't stumble into that influence, he mastered controlled visibility. You can do the same. But it requires discipline. It requires patience. It requires knowing your worth and refusing to dilute it with constant noise or availability. Let me ask you, are you making your presence count, or are you spreading it so thin people have stopped noticing altogether? If you're ready to own your presence, master your absence, and create the kind of energy that lingers long after you've left the room, this is how you start. In the next part, we'll talk about how psychology, specifically the contrast principle, makes your presence even more magnetic. By leveraging the natural human desire for what's rare and amplifying the impact of your every move. Let's keep going. There's a hidden law of influence most men never tap into. It's simple, it's powerful, and once you master it, you'll realize it's not about doing more. It's about timing, contrast, and knowing when to pull back and when to strike. It's called the contrast principle, and when you combine it with controlled visibility, you become unforgettable. Let me explain. Human beings don't notice what stays the same. We're wired to tune out the constant, the predictable, the familiar. But change contrast. It grabs attention. It creates emotional impact. It amplifies perception. Think about it. Silence feels more powerful when it follows noise. Presence feels magnetic when it interrupts absence. Action feels decisive when it comes after hesitation. The Stoics understood this instinctively. Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb men, but their judgments about things." Meaning, perception shapes reality, and contrast reshapes perception. Let me make this real for you. Imagine someone who's always available, always speaking, always showing up. Over time, their presence blends into the background. It loses weight, loses intrigue, loses respect. Now flip the script. Imagine a man who's quiet, composed, selective. Most of the time he's observing, listening, letting the noise play out. But then when the timing's right, he speaks, he acts, he shows up. And because of the contrast, that moment lands differently. It carries more weight. People feel it deeply. That's the contrast principle at work. Here's where psychology sharpens this even more. Our brains are wired to notice change. A sudden shift in tone, an unexpected pause, a break in presence followed by a powerful return. These changes disrupt patterns and disruption forces attention. Controlled visibility uses this naturally. You're absent by design, then present with purpose. That contrast makes your presence impossible to ignore. But let me ask you, are you leveraging contrast, or are you blending into routines becoming so predictable that your energy fades into the background? Contrast isn't just about others, it sharpens your own awareness too. The Stoics reflected on this daily. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." That's contrast, life and death, opportunity and regret, presence and absence. It reminds you to move with urgency, to let your actions count, to let your silences hold space. Here's how to use the contrast principle. Practically be intentional with your absences, pull back when overexposure weakens your influence. Return with purpose. Make your presence count when you choose to engage. Vary your rhythm. Stay unpredictable so people lean in, curious off balance in the best way. Amplify your words through timing. Speak when the room is noisy, if your silence matters, or stay quiet until the moment silence breaks expectation. This applies everywhere: relationships, business, personal presence. I've seen it play out countless times. The man who's always chasing, always texting, always explaining his words lose weight, his presence fades, but the man who steps back, lets his absence breathe, then returns grounded, calm, deliberate, he resets the narrative. He becomes magnetic again, often more powerful than before. Contrast keeps you memorable. Contrast keeps you in control. Contrast makes your moves impossible to ignore. But here's the warning: contrast requires restraint. It takes discipline to hold back, to resist the urge to fill every silence, to step away when your ego wants constant validation. The Stoics called this self-mastery. Modern psychology calls it emotional control. But either way, it's the foundation of influence. Let me ask you one final question. Are you creating contrast in your life, or are you stuck in predictable rhythms, overexposing yourself, speaking without weight, showing up so often that people forget to notice? If you're ready to shift that, if you're ready to make your silence sharper, your presence heavier, your actions louder, the contrast principle is your edge. In the next part, we'll bring it all together. Controlled visibility, scarcity. Contrast and presence, to show you how self-mastery turns all of this from tactics into a lifestyle of undeniable influence. Let's keep going. We've talked about silence. We've talked about presence, about strategic absence, contrast, scarcity. But let me be brutally honest with you. None of it lasts. None of it works if you skip the foundation. Self-mastery. Everything you've heard in this video, all the influence, all the respect, all the quiet power you can project, it starts from within. And that's not just some cliché. That's the heart of Stoicism, the heart of every man who knows his worth without chasing external validation. See, most guys, they try to control everything out there, situations, conversations, people's perceptions, but they forget the only control that lasts is control over yourself. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's what real power looks like. It's not dominance over others, it's discipline over yourself. Let me ask you, when was the last time you paused before reacting? When was the last time you noticed your emotions rising, but you held steady? When was the last time you moved with intention rather than impulse? That's self-mastery in action. It comes in layers and it starts in your mind. Your thoughts shape your reactions. If your mind is scattered, your energy is scattered. If your mind is insecure, your presence leaks insecurity. But if your mind is disciplined, focused, rooted in purpose, people feel it. You feel it. The first layer is mental discipline training your thoughts. Stop reacting to every emotion. Stop chasing every opinion. Stop being pulled in 1,000 directions by distractions. The next layer, emotional steadiness. Life will test you. People will test you. Your emotions will try to pull you off center. But when you master your emotions, when you breathe through the chaos, stay grounded under pressure, your presence becomes unshakable. And finally, consistent aligned action. It's not enough to think strong. You have to live strong. Your actions, your silence, your presence, they need to reflect the man you claim to be. And here's the real payoff. When you master yourself, you stop needing permission. You stop needing validation. You stop performing for attention. Your presence becomes enough. Your silence feels powerful, not awkward. Your actions feel intentional, not reactive. You move through life with quiet authority because you've built it internally. But this isn't just about impressing others, it's about aligning with yourself. When your internal values match your external energy, you create authenticity. And authenticity, that's rare. And rare men, they get noticed. They get respected. They get remembered. Let me give you a real-world example. You've probably met someone who talks a big game, but their actions don't align. Their words say confidence, but their energy screams insecurity. Now think about someone whose actions, presence, silence, all align with quiet strength. They don't need to convince you they're powerful. You feel it. That's alignment. That's self-mastery. And that's where true influence begins. Because when you master yourself, you combine presence, silence, action, scarcity, controlled visibility into one undeniable force. People can't help but respect it. They lean in. They take you seriously. They remember you long after you've left the room. But here's the truth most men avoid. Self-mastery isn't easy. It's not instant. It's not always comfortable. It takes reflection, patience, and the willingness to confront your weaknesses. But the reward, freedom from external noise, freedom from insecurity, the quiet, unshakable confidence of a man who knows exactly who he is. Let me ask you, are you reacting to life? Or are you mastering your mind, your emotions, your actions? Because when you do, you don't need constant presence. You don't need endless explanations. Your energy speaks for you. Your absence creates impact. Your presence feels undeniable. That's the level we're building toward. Self-mastery isn't just the final step, it's the foundation that holds everything else together. And in the final part of this video, I'll show you how to turn all of this silence, presence, scarcity, contrast, self-mastery into a daily practice that doesn't just change how people see you. It transforms how you see yourself. Stay with me. Let me ask you something most men avoid thinking about. What's going to be left of you when you're not in the room, when you've walked away, when the conversation's over, when your presence is gone? What remains? See the most magnetic men, the ones who command respect even when they're silent, they understand this one truth. Presence fades, but legacy stays. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this daily. He didn't think about death to live in fear, he thought about it to sharpen how he moved through life. You could leave life right now, he wrote. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Powerful, isn't it? It's not about being morbid. It's about urgency. It's about legacy. It's about building the kind of presence so intentional, so grounded, that your absence echoes, long after you've left the room, long after the conversation ends, long after the moment passes. That's the real power behind controlled visibility. It's not just about making them notice your absence for a few minutes. It's about creating energy so undeniable that when you're not there, they feel it, they remember it, they replay it. Your silence, your restraint, your deliberate actions. They stack up, brick by brick, move by move, and before you know it, you've built a reputation, a presence that outlasts temporary attention. But here's the difference most men never grasp. Legacy isn't loud. Legacy is quiet. It's subtle. It's written in the small, powerful moments that compound over time. Think about it. You don't remember the loudest people from every room you've been in, but you remember the ones who moved with purpose, the ones who spoke with clarity, the ones whose absence made the atmosphere shift. That's the mark of a man who lives with the end in mind. And here's where Stoicism makes this brutally clear. Your life, your reputation, your influence, they're not built on noise. They're built on alignment, on restraint, on knowing that your time, your presence, your actions, they are your legacy happening in real time. Every interaction, it's a seed. Every silence, a statement. Every calculated action, a quiet, permanent mark on how people see you, remember you, respect you. Let me ask you, are you acting like someone whose presence will fade as soon as you leave, or are you building energy so intentional that even your absence speaks louder than most men's words? Controlled visibility at its highest level isn't about playing games, it's about thinking bigger. It's about asking yourself, what memory do I leave behind when I walk away? What impression lingers when I stay silent? What story are people telling themselves about me when I'm not there to explain myself? And here's the beautiful part. You control that story. Not through noise, not through constant appearances, but through quiet discipline, presence, and action aligned with your values. The Stoics lived with legacy in mind, not fame, not temporary attention, but the quiet, long-lasting respect that comes from living with integrity every day. They didn't chase recognition. They earned it through how they moved, how they stayed silent, how they acted when no one was watching, and you can too. But it starts with remembering. Your absence is just as powerful as your presence when you've done the internal work, when your words align with your energy, when your silence is intentional, when your actions reflect self-mastery. You don't just influence the room while you're there, you influence it after you've gone. That's legacy thinking. That's real controlled visibility. That's how the most magnetic men don't just exist. They outlast. So let me ask you one final time. What's your absence saying about you right now? Are you leaving behind noise that fades or presence that lingers? The choice is yours. Because the most respected men, they understand. True power isn't measured in how loudly you live. It's measured in the quiet marks you leave on people's minds long after you're gone. That's how you stop chasing power and start becoming it. We've covered a lot today: silence, presence, scarcity, contrast, legacy. But here's the truth. None of this works without self-mastery. Because if you can't lead yourself, you'll never control the energy you project or the impact you leave behind. Marcus Aurelius said it best. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do. So let me challenge you starting today. Use silence with strategy, not as avoidance, but as a tool. Show up with presence, grounded, intentional, impossible to ignore. Make your actions deliberate because every move shapes how they remember you. Your legacy isn't built in one dramatic moment. It's built quietly through the energy, restraint, and precision you bring to life daily. This isn't about temporary influence. This is about becoming the kind of man whose absence speaks louder than most people's presence. If you're ready to own that, here's what I want you to do. Like this video, comment below. I leave a legacy. and subscribe to Stoic Blessing because around here we don't just talk influence, we live it. See you in the next one.